You didn't get it out of you. You just projected it on the world outside of you. It's not a universe, it's a you-inverse. Because we are now in the Age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius is exactly about rebellion. It's all about individuality. It's also about hyper-technology and frequency and resonance.
A good teacher helps you discover the truth within yourself.
You know, here's the thing. It's like, in this world, you get what you expect. So if you don't expect to find something, you'll never find it. Well, what happens in the New Testament is the gospel. The gospel means, the etymology of that word means good news. Because suffering is only suffering when you don't know the reason behind the suffering. This place can be an absolute heaven.
It can.
It's totally up to us. And that's what we're being taught. Heaven and hell is right here. We don't have to die for it. It's literally right here.
I'd like to welcome back to the show, returning champion, Robert Edward Grant. Man, how you doing, Robert?
Good to see you. You have a lot of returning champions.
I do, but you, sir, you have a distinct... I do have returning... I have a lot of returning champions. But you have a distinct honor that I think this will be your third time in the studio, technically.
Yes.
Third episode.
That's right.
And there might be a fourth one coming. We'll see.
This is true. Yes.
Very soon as well. So you're the first three-peater.
A three-peater.
Yeah.
Okay.
Billy was the first. Okay. Billy, I think, was the first two-peater.
Billy Carson?
Billy Carson, yeah. He was the first two-peter. So it's always an honor speaking to you, man. And I have to get my brain ready to absorb the information that comes in. As a lot of the comments in YouTube always say, like, I didn't know I needed a PhD just to listen to a podcast.
I'll try not to.
No, but I say that in a good way, because I mean we do go deep down rabbit holes, and it's really really fascinating. So, first thing, man, let's dive into your latest trip to Egypt. You went out there, and last time you came on, you discovered some new stuff inside the king's chamber. So what happened now, and what have you discovered now, sir?
Oh my goodness. Well, the latest discovery, it only happened a few days ago. Actually,
that's usually what happens. You come fresh off the plane. I got to go to Alex's.
Well, this was a pretty big one because, so you remember that on the King's Chamber walls, on the north wall, is the face of Orion, the Orion constellation, in the exact position it should be. It's right next to Taurus, and Taurus is right over Orion's throat. Taurus controls the throat chakra. But what was also interesting is I was looking closely at the imagery, again, after I came back from my last trip. And, you know, I have this whole recreation of the King's Chamber, and I can go in there anytime and do filming and stuff in there. It's pretty awesome. And thanks to the help of ASU, so Arizona State University, they let us use their 96 camera cube. I feel like I'm in the Vitruvian Man box, right? Literally. And you're getting camera views all over your body and everything, all in real time. It's really awesome. But I was looking at the imagery, and I noticed something about the pupils of the face of Orion. So the way I always orient to see that three-dimensional linear perspective drawing, etching in the north chamber, in the north wall of the chamber, is I look for the pupils. So once I find the pupils, then I realized, I was like, wait a minute. So there's a pupil there, and there's a pupil there. And then right over the bridge of his nose is another divot. So there's a divot in the wall where the one pupil is. There's another divot in the wall etched as well where the other pupil is, or left and right eyes, and then a third eye. And I look at the proportion. I'm like, holy cow, that's Orion's belt. So then I'm thinking, wait a minute. Okay, so is that Orion's belt? Because it has the exact same orientation as the three pyramids on Giza Plateau, which is now showing that there is some planning, right? So first of all, the 2-to-1 proportion of the King's Chamber itself is exactly matching during the precession of 24,000 years that we go through. There are 4 North Stars. So every 6,000 years, we change our North Star position, right, through the Earth's wobble. So right now, we're in Polaris. Polaris, Big Dipper,
Correct.
You know what Polaris is. Well, if you go back 6,000 years, it was Thuban in the Dracos constellation. That was our North Star. So all the navigation would have been done orienting around the North Star in Thuban.
Because we're wobbling as we go.
Because we're wobbling as we go. So 6,000 years before that, it was Vega, the star Vega, which is it was actually popularized in the movie Contact as well.
Yeah, yes,
right?
yes,
Remember,
yes.
I know you know all your movies.
I love that movie.
And basically Vega is in the Lyra constellation. And then if you go back 6,000 years before that, it goes back to Deneb in Cygnus constellation. Now Cygnus is unique because it also has 3 central stars in the middle of the constellation that are matching exactly the same shape as the Giza Plateau as well. So what I realized as I looked closer into the wall, and I took the overlay of Cygnus and put it on top of Orion's face on the wall, I noticed that where the other stars of Cygnus were also divoted in the wall.
Interesting.
So then I started realizing, wait a minute, what this is telling us, and that Deneb was right on the tip of Orion's nose. So where we go in our direction, like in many cultures, the way they say, this is me, like in Japan, they point to their nose. They say like, watashi desu, right? Me. Or, chomnida in Korean, this is me. So you point to your nose, I am. So this is the direction you're headed, where your nose is pointing to. So I was like, okay, so does this mean that at some point in time in history, there must have been a point in time where Cygnus constellation mirrored over on top of Orion's belt for those 3 stars? And is it even possible for that to happen? So the beauty of ChatGPT is you can look it up now.
Sure.
And you could say, what were the alignments like, and would it ever have been possible that in history there would have been a time where the stars of Cygnus, which are Cygni, Satyr, and Gienah, those are the 3 stars, would overlap on top of Altinach, Alnilam, the central star of Orion's belt, and the last being Mintaka. And it turns out the only way that from Earth's perspective you would have seen that in the sky would have been 11,000, so approximately 12,800 years ago, or 11,000 BC, 10,800 BC.
Around the Younger Dryas?
Exactly. And in order for that to have happened, the Earth would have had to have gone through a pole shift that moved its tilt to what would be today referenced as 53 degrees. Up to, it could have actually been between 29 degrees. Today's Earth tilt is 23.4 degrees, right? But it only would have had to go up to 29 degrees or as high as 53 degrees, depending on the crustal displacement.
So before you continue with the pyramid, I want to, because this is something I've wondered about. I understand that there's been pole shifts in the history of this planet. It happens. And is it a subtle thing or is it a abrupt thing? And if it does, how fast is abrupt? Because they've been saying that we're going to have, at one point, Antarctica was not the South Pole. It was green.
Yeah, I just discovered pyramids in Antarctica.
Yeah, but we can go down that rabbit hole in a minute. So how abrasive is that transition? Is it a slow over hundreds of years, or does it happen?
We like to believe,
because nobody knows really,
that it's slow, and it's just part of the process of the Earth's wobble. But let's be real. We have no history that goes beyond 6,000 years. It's as if everything got wiped 6,000 years ago.
Or 12,000 years ago.
Or 12,000 years ago.
Dryas, right?
So literally every 6,000 years we move into a new North Star position. So we don't know exactly if it's a gradual thing.
Or it happens overnight.
Or if it happens overnight.
So if just
And we, of course, as a human race, have a self-preservation bias.
Of course. So let's say that it does happen. What would happen to the world today if tomorrow the pole shift? So
if you put that into ChatGPT, hold on to your hat, because it's definitely terrifying.
Okay.
And what it says is that if there were such a pole shift of such magnitude, then the Earth would literally stop spinning, right, momentarily.
That's not good.
So you'd have like 3 days of darkness if you're on one side of the Earth. You'd have 3 days of light. And this is one of the things that people talk about in prophecy too, right? You may have heard of this. And that it would restart up again, right? And then it might have some readjustment into its position. But its axial tilt would cause the Earth to basically create both crustal displacement of the kind and magnitude that we're talking about, like
ripping a continent apart.
Yeah, like magnitude 10, right, plus. So literally ripping continents apart. And remember, each time that's a logarithmic scale when you're looking at Richter scales, right? It's logarithmic. So 9.1 becomes like 10 times more intense than 9, for example.
Right.
Right.
So every point up is
Exactly. So when you start thinking about that, what would it do? It would create a gigantic tidal wave. And the tidal wave, ChatGPT says, it would be on the order of 2 to 3 miles high.
So nothing. So if it hits the coast, any coast, how many miles in does it go? Does it go in 30 miles, 40 miles?
We don't know.
You have no idea.
We don't, obviously we don't know because, I mean, imagine this. It depends on how abrupt the Earth's rotation stops. If it's an abrupt stop, it could be more gradual, so it's not as bad as this.
It's
right?
like an ease in.
It's more like an ease in. But let's say you're driving 1,000 miles an hour because that's the speed of the Earth's rotation.
If we stop, the whole world will you keep going.
Yeah, it's like, they always say when you're driving in a car and you've got like a box of tissue paper in the back seat, right, in the back ledge, don't ever have that because if you slam on the brakes, that tissue paper has only a certain amount of mass in its light object, but as soon as you apply the force of the momentum related to its velocity shift, then the total mass energy of that becomes multiples of it, right? So it's like a baseball coming at you. So if you're going 1,000 miles an hour and you stop abruptly, right, you've got all this water that gets replaced. I mean, imagine you're hitching behind your truck, right, your Ford Raptor or something. You slam on the brakes and you're going 100 miles an hour, all the water is going to come flying out, right?
Completely.
So you could see how this could possibly happen. And I'm not a doomsdayer at all. I'm just also looking at this saying, we just don't know.
But that's essentially an extinction level event.
Maybe that's what we've experienced, and this is why all these ancient civilizations get wiped out. Maybe it's part of the construct that we're living in, right, in this simulation.
So would you agree that
it's like a set change. I mean, you make movies, right?
Sure.
You've got your sets and you do it all like you're the master of all this. You realize that if you're going to be successful making film today, you've got to realize that you're the actor. So you're the talent, you're the director, you're the producer, right? You're the guy that gets the chief cook and bottle washer, and you're the one who goes and gets the coffee at Starbucks, right? You do it, all of it. And you, to me, are a metaphor for what we're starting to realize about ourselves in our own matrix of mind.
Okay. I want to go down that road in a minute. But so the shift in the Earth's axis and kind of like this abrupt, I heard like Neil deGrasse Tyson say this once, like if the Earth just stopped rotation, it would be very bad because we would keep going 1,000 miles an hour and we basically wipe out the planet and wipe out, the human race. And a lot of mammals and a lot of other animals. And I think the birds will be the only thing, if they're in the air, that'll survive. Fish probably, depending on where they are in the ocean, might survive, all that kind of stuff. But that's an extinction level event. Like it's hard to, I don't think humanity comes back from that. I don't, at least. That's such a massive, it's kind of like a comet hitting. If a comet hits, it wiped out the dinosaurs. There's some things that survived, but the
mammals survived.
Some small mammals.
Small mammals survived.
None of the big ones.
None of the big ones did. But I mean, I think that the way to think about it is, if you're going 300 miles an hour in an airplane, 400 miles an hour in an airplane, and you hit something and come to a sudden stop, right? It's going to be very difficult for you to survive. That is true.
Sure.
But I believe that there have been, through each of these periods, a few people who have survived and basically climbed out of the rubble of the reset. And I do believe that there are a lot of people talking about this right now. It's not just me, right? I'm just basically talking about it more in relationship to what I'm finding, right? And it's revealing itself in a way that the Great Pyramid is like a clock, Stargate, of a 24,000-year clock. And it's showing us this, that the King's Chamber itself is shaped like the 4 stars we go through and travel through in the precession of equinox. And the positions of all of the constellations are in a backwards orientation, just as you would expect related to precession. So it's telling us about a larger 24,000-year clock.
Which is the Yugas. And
the Yugas, absolutely.
Exactly the Yugas.
And it's Sri Yukteswar, 100%.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, in the Holy Science.
In the Holy Science.
In the Holy Science, yeah. This is the amazing thing of my job. I get to speak to so many interesting people around the world. And I just start to see the patterns. You're very much like that as well. You see patterns. So I start to pick up, and these numbers keep coming up, 24,000 years, 12,000 years, 6,000 years, and the cycles of things. It's pretty fascinating. So let's dive into, you said that I was an example of where we're going. I'd like to hear what you meant by that. As if I was an example of where we are in this construct. I'm curious.
No, I think we're all coming to the realization now that's what the awakening is. I liken it to a dream. And, we tend to hear about this stuff in Hinduism, and we hear about it in Buddhism and Taoism. And we learn about something like Leela. Right?
So
Leela is the divine play or the divine game.
So like Maya, almost.
Like Maya. Yeah. It is just like Maya.
Yeah.
Except that you're now moving beyond. You're transcending the Maya. You're transcending the samsara. And now you're playing in the game because you know you can play in the game. It's like being asleep in a dream, and then you probably had a lucid dream before where in your dream you realize, wait a minute, I'm dreaming. And usually what wakes me up in my lucid dreams, when I become a lucid dreamer, I don't realize I'm in a dream until the moment that I finally say, I'm in a dream. And what is it that triggers my knowledge that I'm in a dream? Usually a bunch of weird things start happening in the dream. Like glitches in the dream, right? People acting funny, doing strange things, and you could say that that's exactly what's playing out in the world around us right now, especially since the pandemic.
Oh.
Where it's like, wait a minute, could this be real? Seriously? Now we've got people like, talking about Pizzagate and all this stuff that's
planes are falling out of the sky.
Planes falling out of the sky.
LA's on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Wars,
so much weird stuff that you're like, how could this even be, right? And it's almost like this is where you get to the extremes of the polarity so that you can wake up, so that you can realize this is a dream, or the synchronicities start getting so intense that it's almost like ridiculous. It's like the theater of ridiculousness.
Oh, we are definitely in the theater of ridiculousness. Right
we are definitely in the theater of ridiculousness. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when government starts saying, okay, we're going to get rid of all of the aid and we're going to get rid of all tax. It's like, whoa, I like this stage of the dream.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Right?
But there's going to be some repercussions.
There's going to be some repercussions. You would think, what will be the repercussions, just like in any dream? In a dream, what are the things that limit your ability to do things? There are constants in your dream as well. There's gravity in your dream.
Sure, generally speaking.
Until you realize that you're in the dream. And then you can break out of those constructs.
So basically, once again, Neo.
That's right. Yeah. So all of a sudden, you can fly. That's what lucid dreamers often do. As soon as they realize, wait, I'm in a dream, what can I mess with now? What am I going to do?
I do that whenever I have one of those, yeah.
So this is the stage we're in this life.
So
we're all waking up from the dream, realizing that we're in a simulation of mind that is mind emergent, that is no different than a dream. Because in the dream, I've had dreams that look as real as this room.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Everything about it. And where are the photons coming from? My eyes are closed, right? It's not like it's coming through my receptacles of my eyes and my retina.
So what is a dream then? Let's get down into that rabbit hole for a second. If you're right, there's no photons, there's no light, but yet Steven Spielberg is sitting in front of me having a conversation with me about something. And then Robin Williams shows up, and then was that Genghis Khan over there in the corner? Like weird stuff. Like what's the point? Like there's so many different. These things should not mix. One of these things.
Or like belong. I've had a dream where Jim Morrison showed up with like an Indian, right? With like an American Indian guy, like a Native American.
It almost sounds like a near-death experience, like that experience of a life review, that experience of going to the other side, the experience of just showing up. That's kind of the dreamlike, but. What is, on a scientific standpoint, what is creating a dream in the mind for every human being? Like, what is that? Because it's not your mind's eye. Your mind's eye is not nearly as good as a dream.
No, but it's your subconscious. Your subconscious.
It's a movie theater in the back of your head.
Yes, it's all being created. So, okay, you're in a dream, right? You're the first person in your dream. So you're living out whatever you're doing in your dream, you're living it out in the first person narrative. Yeah. You still think you're separate from everybody else, and you often carry the same. Although some people will dream as being, I dreamt I was the president of the United States, or I dreamt I was something else, but you're still in the first person narrative. Are there other people in your dream? It could be Jim Morrison, could be the Native American guy who's coming to, serve you peyote. It could be, it could be Genghis Khan, or it could be, President Reagan or something like this, right? Barack Obama, for that matter. But who are those people? Who created those people in your dream?
Your own subconscious.
Your subconscious did.
To my understanding, this is now we're going to go down more a little bit.
So are they separate from you?
No, they're not. But the thing is that now I'll get into a little bit more of the metaphysical side of this, which is I believe that dreams are messages from the other side to you. And when they use like certain people to show up, it's being used so you pay attention. Because if Joe Schmoes shows up with the Indian, you might not remember it because it's so difficult to remember dreams, usually, unless you really focus on it or write it down or something like that. So let's say Jim Morrison showed up for you. Well, that's something you're going to remember because Jim Morrison generally doesn't show up in life because he is dead. So like a lot of times this is just my own personal thing. When I have a dream, and every time I have a dream, this is my feeling. I feel like that the other side is trying to send me messages, trying to help me understand or process something or something along those lines. Spirit guides, so on. And I have a dream, and sometimes like while I'm in the dream, I'm like, oh, I'll remember this. I'll remember this. And I get to the other side. I wake up and I'm like, what the fuck? What was that? What was that? So then I'll talk to my spirit guides. I'm like, guys, if you want me to, if you're sending me a message, I didn't get it, first of all, and I need the production value to go up on the dreams. I need better cast. I need better production value, maybe some explosions, maybe a better set, something that's going to make me really remember these dreams. And a lot of times the next couple nights, I'll have a higher production value set. And sometimes I'll have a dream and afterwards I'm like, good guy, whoever the production designer was on the other side, good job on this one.
Yeah.
What do you think of that thesis?
Well, can you say that first sentence again that you said?
You
said, what do you believe dreams are?
I believe that it's the other side trying to send me messages. Some messages on helping me on this journey, on this path.
Okay, so you believe that dreams are really the manifestation of the other side trying to send you messages.
Correct.
To help you on your journey.
Correct.
Okay, so life is the exact same experience.
Explain. Oh, that we're in a dream.
Life
Yeah.
is the other side trying to send us messages to help us along our journey.
So you just flipped it.
Yeah.
So what we're doing here is sending messages to our soul, our oversoul or our soul.
No. It's both directions, but I mean, I believe it's both. Why would the one source creator create this experience? Why do we create dreams? Maybe the reason why we create dreams and have relationships in dreams and everything else, because you could have full lifetimes in dreams, like the movie Inception, right? A dream within a dream.
Multiple layers of a dream, yeah.
So think about this, like these are all just projections of people you meet in your dream that you might have a full love affair, a whole lifetime. And that person is there as a projection of your subconscious, right? Projections, just like in the movie Inception, right? There were even projections that showed up within his dream. His dead wife, for example.
Yes.
Right?
The little spinny thing. The top,
yes.
Yeah.
So it's trying to teach us something that we need to heal and integrate. And we learn through opposites in this mirror.
In this one,
in the karmic mirror. So if I'm here to learn unconditional love, I'm going to experience betrayal over and over and over again until I no longer judge betrayal negatively. That's the only moment that I'll actually truly embody what it means to have unconditional love.
I want to ask you a deeper question. If we're here to exactly what you did, experience different things, so like let's say, love or murder or, greed or something like that, whatever lesson that is a lesson that a lot of souls on this planet are going to go through. So my question to you is, what's the point? You have learned a lesson about, let's say, greed, right? Or materialism or something along those lines. I'll learn that same lesson. It'll be slightly different because of our life is a completely different thing. Totally. But the lesson is the same. So what is the point of these lessons? Or is it just so it goes back to the individual soul trying to evolve. But the lessons are all the same. We all got to go through the same school. If you want a PhD, you're going to have to go through kindergarten all the way up to your pH level. We all go through it, but we all experience it differently. But the lessons are the same. If you want to be a doctor, you got to have so many classes in this. You want to be a lawyer, you have so many classes in this. You want to be a filmmaker, you have so many classes in this. So what is the point of the different perspectives if we're all learning the same lessons?
Okay, so I love to quote Alan Watts on this.
I love Alan Watts.
Love Alan Watts.
Love Alan, yeah.
So an eye cannot observe itself without the aid of a mirror.
Okay.
So if I'm just an eye and I don't have a mirror anywhere, how do I know what I look like?
Right, you need a mirror. You need something to reflect back to.
I need something to reflect back. So consciousness, in order to perceive itself, must divide itself into mirrors.
And that's what we are.
And that's what we are. So the best analogy I could think of this is that I did this podcast recently with this fellow who's an expert in general AI. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, what's the difference between AI and general AI? And I don't even like the word artificial because all intelligence is intelligence. Mm-hmm. And so he said, well, the hardest part that we're trying to figure out how to achieve true sentience for AI is like godlike sentience, mm-hmm. is understanding and interpolation of emotional states. Because it's entirely subjective. How you perceive something that might be emotive to you in some way, shape, or form may not be the same as how someone else would perceive the same thing. You and I both could have the exact same experience and have two totally different emotional experiences with it. I'll give you an example. I went on a roller coaster in November with a friend who wanted to go on this roller coaster. And she was like, I want to go on this roller coaster. And I said, are you sure? Because like,
my back's
this could turn out bad, this could turn out bad. And I'm okay with roller coasters, but she had said she had a problem with it. She's like, that looked kind of like a kiddie one. I really want to go on it. I'm like, okay, great. So of course we get about halfway through the roller coaster ride and she's like screaming like she's going to die. This was not pleasant for me. I'm laughing for most of the way. She's freaking dying. And it's like, it was traumatizing for her. And like she wanted to throw up afterwards, right? So I was like, wow, this is fun. And the point is, we both experienced the same thing. I came off of it exhilarated, laughing, and having a great time. Mm-hmm. She came off of it terrified and couldn't literally get better. She was dizzy for 3 days. So she was hating the experience. The point I'm trying to make is we don't experience the world as it is. We experience it as we are.
True. Very true.
Right? So therefore, in order to get the one into even higher states of consciousness, because we think that, we go to school until we're 25 or 26 years old, if depending on how much advanced degrees we go ahead and go after. But the truth is we're learning our entire lifetime. Right?
Oh, of course.
And the word philomath, which is the name of my first book, means lover of learning. Mm-hmm. Right? Polymath is a mini learner. You achieve a certain high degree, as it's the name of my second book, high degree of expertise in multiple different fields that seem totally disparate, mm-hmm. but are all the same. Just we experience all the different subjects in math and science and physics and everything, physiology, you name it, they're all just different perceptions of looking at the same thing. Applied philosophy is mathematics, applied mathematics is geometry, applied geometry is physics, applied physics is chemistry, applied chemistry is biology, applied biology is psychology, applied psychology is sociology. Mm-hmm. Applied sociology is back to philosophy. They're all the same. It's all the same thing. Back to the philosophy that becomes mathematics again. So the point being that we are here to provide the opportunity for the one to observe itself through our unique perspectives that have never been existent before and will never exist again. We're like blockchain node validators of our emotional states, mm-hmm. of all of our experiences that creates an infinitude of possibility because the one realized that there's no objective truth. The only objectivity that could be applied to the universal experience is the love that underlies it all. Mm-hmm. The desire to be the philosopher, the lover of wisdom, right? Philosophia, the lover of wisdom. And that's what I believe the universe ultimately is. It wants to learn empathy for every possible circumstance. So there is a two-way street for the information. This Akashic field that's getting populated by our emotional states that we call space-time. Mm-hmm. That is, and it's stored as a blockchain that's the shape of DNA. Mm-hmm. And it's all a field of information that is now accessible, and therefore why the universe is expanding at the speed of light. Maybe that's really just the speed of our perception. Maybe that's not the limit on our perception. Maybe we can actually go much higher. Maybe the next level would be c squared. So this is what I'm trying to say is that we are here for a reason to experience and get to the stage of true, authentic love. So we, very early in our lives, we decide, I am not this, I'm not this, I'm not, whatever gives us shame and blame, we then turn into some external thing and we project it. Mm-hmm. And then we go through life until we get to this point where we're like, okay, I've looked at myself in the mirror so many times and all the things I don't like about myself, I'm just going to take off each one by one, just like shave it off. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I need to be better. I need to be better. And then all those things, even the negative personality characteristics, just show up in the world around you. You didn't get it out of you. Mm-hmm. You just projected it on the world outside of you. It's not a universe. It's a you-inverse. So that you-inverse is now showing up all the things you don't like about yourself. Let's say you were secretly gay and you didn't want anyone to know you were gay, so you deflected it, just like the movie American Beauty. Right? Where
violence against it. Yeah.
Violence against it. So then you're like judging it so much because they're causing you all this temptation and pain and anguish and reminding you of what you are that you've rejected. Right? So then as you get to this back half of your life, no longer saying, I'm not this, you start to have a big crisis. And you're like, wait a minute, what got me here is not going to get me there. And I've rejected all these aspects of myself and I just can't put up with this charade anymore. And I now have to start looking at the world around me and saying the name of God. I am that. I am. All the things that I have perceived as not part of me now in my outer world are all me. Just like I'm in a dream and the first person becomes lucid and he realizes in the lucid dream he can actually play in this dream now because he's actually gotten to a point where he's accepted that the whole dream is him.
So these gentlemen and ladies who are on this wall, who are ascended masters, they are basically they're basically personifications of what you're saying. They figured out the game. They raised above it and go, oh, I can levitate now. I can do these other things because I know how to play the game. It's very Neo-esque.
Yes.
Where I could stop bullets.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Like my favorite is the little boy, the little bald monk boy inside the oracle is like,
yeah, with the spoon.
You can't bend the spoon.
There is no spoon.
That's impossible.
That's right.
What you need to understand is there is no spoon, and your head hurts thinking about that.
I know. It was like,
it's amazing.
See, we're all waking up now.
So is that why we're so chaotic right now?
Yes.
Everyone's like, because this is what I've been saying to people. I call this the bull in the china shop era. There's bulls in china shops everywhere around the world, and a lot of china is being broken, and you cannot choose what china is broken. It's all going down.
Yep.
Yeah. But it seems like so many people are starting to wake up, and start questioning everything. Start questioning authority. Start questioning institutions. Mistrust in media. Mistrust in institutions. It's all starting to happen, and I think people are just
in government.
Well, definitely no trust in government, but the thing is that they seem to be unable to process it. Like it's such a abrupt awakening for a lot of these people, who when they come out they're just like, and they literally like it's short circuiting them, where then they have to reach out for shows like this, conversations like this, content that you make, content that I make, to try to start making sense of what's happening. And they're instinctually searching for this kind of content, instinctually searching for books and media to help them, teachers, to help them process this, to guide them through.
Oh, yeah. And it's
happening on a mass
cathartic.
scale.
It's happening on a mass scale. So when I was 15,
yeah,
I thought my parents were stupid.
We all did. That's being a teenager.
But I could give you real tangibility to why I thought they were not very smart, because I'm being facetious. Of course they were smart, but I thought they were not very smart because they made bad decisions continually and they couldn't land on the way that I thought everything was black and white. Because at that point in my life, I was still in the stage of cutting things off of me. And the Buddhist Wheel of Life, the first 4 stages of that, right? And it's what was representing the 7 sins, right? And then the 7 virtues. It's like the 14 stages that show up in this. And so what I realized when I was 22, that things weren't as black and white as I used to think they were.
Very much so. You're right. As a teenager, everything is kind of black.
By the time I was 27, my parents were freaking genius. Like, how in the heck did they deal with all the stuff that they have to deal with?
Oh, my God.
And then for me and my brother, too.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Really? By the time I was 35, I was like, man, they're ascended masters. Like, seriously?
Absolutely.
Because I realized over time that all the stuff that I thought was black and white started to evolve. That's why kids are going in college and everything. It's totally trackable by where they are in their stage of life. It's literally tied to their age development. So, and some people are just faster in it because they've been through this cycle more and more often, whatever, because
old souls
and all that. But the truth is, like, I started seeing, remember when you were in like kindergarten and stuff, you had like 8 crayons in your box.
Yeah.
That was you had blue, red.
White.
There was no seafoam. There was no coral, right? All these colors that women like to use the names of, and men don't even know what the colors are. We don't even have the name. I was like,
seafoam.
Light blue. That's all we've got.
Seafoam.
Blue, green, maybe.
It's salmon. It's not
salmon.
pink.
Exactly. It's salmon.
Sir.
Exactly. I think women can perceive way more colors than we can for some reason because they have words for every one.
Yes.
But we're like stupid on this. Like it's like light blue.
Like is that like just a light blue?
It's like a pinkish.
It's salmon, sir.
Yeah,
it's salmon.
It's salmon. That's right. Exactly. Maybe it's coral though.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Anyway, the point is that I went from having like 2 crayons, which was white and black,
right,
to having 8 crayons. As I got older, I got the box of 256 crayons.
With the little sharpener in the back.
With the little sharpener in the back, right? It had like rows. It was like bench-style stadium seating for your crayons.
Stadium seating.
Right? It was like that. And then now you get to, okay, we can't carry all that many crayons around. So I needed on a screen to have 16.8 million colors.
Right now we do, yeah.
Right? And then we go into higher states. So the new OLED TVs and everything, oh my gosh, it's like more real than real life.
Yeah, it's
8K displays and all this stuff.
We're getting to a point where it's now beyond our eyes can perceive. Like you don't need 16K.
No.
You don't need 24K.
No, I guarantee you a lot of people are not even perceiving those colors. The subtlety is so small. But you know what? That's what going into the 5th dimensional experience is, the throat chakra. Mm-hmm. It's all subtlety. It's all in the subtle realms. Right? That's why the Buddhists love the word subtle. Have you noticed that? Mm-hmm. They love to describe things as the subtle realms. It's about these very, very high precision. It's not blunt force trauma anymore. It's being able to parse out the different aspects. Why did I choose this experience? What was I trying to learn by directing? And that's the big difference. When you finally realize you're not just an actor on someone else's script, but now you are the actor, the director, the producer, just like you in your studio. You do it all.
So that's why you were saying that I'm what
you're a metaphor for what's happening in this world, is that we're realizing we're all in our own Leela game.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
And now the only limitations to that world are your belief systems.
Hence why...
Now, don't go outside and try to fly. Okay?
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that.
I can fly.
That's right. But I think it's very Neo-esque.
Well, yeah.
And that's what all of these people have said.
Right. And they all said, you have the power as well.
That's right.
We all have the power to ascend.
I just gave a talk the other day, like literally. I got back from Egypt and I was like, okay, I was kind of frustrated on some things. We all go through these different things, right? And it's all about what we all have to learn, right? And I don't blame anybody else for my experience. It's my experience. I chose it all. It's not someone else's fault.
It's also something that you actually, I know what you're talking about, your frustrations, but you actually move those players in pieces on the game into your world. Like it was completely done by you. It's not like you just happen to walk into a situation and like, oh God. No, you actually brought these pieces together to create the situation that you were like, I apparently have to learn a lesson.
So remember, it's like I told you, if you are here to learn unconditional love, then you're going to experience betrayal over and over and over again. But here's the kicker. The kicker is that each time you experience it again and haven't learned from it,
it gets harder.
It gets harder.
So we've said that on the show 1,000 times. It's like it starts with a whisper, a little tap on the shoulder, a little nudge, and then the sledgehammer comes.
And then the sledgehammer
comes because you're not listening, and it just keeps getting harder.
Yeah, and you're not learning the discernment. I've finally figured out what discernment is. Mm-hmm. Discernment to me is not another subtle form of saying judgment. Discernment is being able to recognize the patterns that you keep putting yourself through. And finally being able to recognize maybe this isn't the pattern that I want to keep experiencing.
Yeah, exactly. So when something happens for you in your life, not to you, but for you, and you have to, if you look at
For
it,
and through me, right.
if you look at life like that, life changes dramatically. That one shift, one slight shift, like something's happening for me, not to me. It's not poor Alex or poor Robert. It's like, okay, this is here now. I've manifested this, regardless of how horrific it might be or how happy it could be. I'm on the full side of the spectrum. But what am I supposed to learn here? Why is this person yelling at me? Why is this person loving on me? What is this situation supposed to teach me? And what am I supposed to learn? And if I were you, not you, but in general, learn that lesson as fast as you can, because it's going to keep coming in hot and heavy and fast if you don't learn it and throughout your life. How many of us have had, a relationship and they cheat on you, and then you didn't, and like, oh God, then it happens again, and it happens again. And I've had friends like that like everybody that they get cheated on all the time. I mean,
They're the common denominator.
I'm like, so I have to tell you something, and you're the common denominator in this. Like, what's the one thing that never changes? So what are you doing to attract these kind of people?
This
into
is
your
why
life?
assholes are always surrounded by assholes.
Very much so.
When someone comes back home and after the end of the day and they're like, oh, I was on the highway and there was an asshole cut me off, this other asshole did this, and da. It's like, bro, realize you're the asshole. You're the asshole that's perceiving assholes because you're resonating at the frequency of asshole.
Can I coin that phrase and put it on a T-shirt?
It's sympathetic resonance.
At the frequency of an asshole. That's an amazing T-shirt.
Right? It's an amazing T-shirt.
That's amazing.
But it's true. I mean, think about it. It's like, if I'm resonating at the frequency of humility, what am I going to perceive in the world around me?
Or love.
The humility and love that's all around me, right? When you perceive someone as being arrogant, look at first the mote in your own eye. This is straight from Jesus and Matthew, okay? Look first at the mote in your own eye. The thing that you judge is the thing you are.
Very much so. And I always say it's like, that's why you don't hear a lot of yogis or swamis getting mugged. They can't, that energy, that vibration it won't connect.
No, it won't connect, because when you're in the vibration of taking something from someone, and you may not even be consciously aware of that being that. It might be that your form of taking it from someone could be through a business transaction where you feel like, okay, yeah, you've got the upper hand. Right, and you take advantage of a situation.
Guess what?
And the way that manifests itself back to you is you're walking down a street in Mexico City, and all of a sudden you get mugged.
Right. But there's millions of people who go to Mexico City every year who don't get mugged.
There are millions of people that don't. And so the point is, and it's not about Mexico City. Mexico City is a very safe city. But the point is, I get mugged in my hometown in Laguna Beach. But the point is that the thing that you think you are not is the thing that you are. That's why I think it's very wise that the name is, Yod He Vav He. Mm-hmm. The name for God is I am that I am. Yahweh. So when you really start to come to grips with this, then you're like, okay, so here's the good news. The good news is I'm in control of my destiny. Mm-hmm. And what I'm calling destiny is just the free will of my higher self.
So is humanity right now getting the sledgehammer? Like, as a collective, we have been whispered, we have been tapped, we have been, maybe a little shove, maybe a little push, maybe louder voices. Like, dude, you need to listen. Now we're getting sledgehammered. I feel, and the whole world is feeling it. The consciousness of humanity is getting sledgehammered right now. It started, I'd say, probably after 2012.
Yeah, after 2012. That was the end of the old world for sure.
That was literally the end of the old world. And it was a slower process than 2016 happened. Mm-hmm. And then those next 4 years were interesting. Mm-hmm. And then 2020 happened with the pandemic. And you're like, oh. And this whole decade has been, every year is crazier than the year last. Like, it's been insane. This year's already started off with a bang. And it's insane. I can only imagine where we're going to go for the rest of this decade. So that's where you think that humanity right now is getting the sledgehammer.
I do. I believe that's exactly what's happening, that we're getting the sledgehammer, and it's exactly right on time. Because here's the thing. We have a backdrop in the dream. So that's a little bit more organized than what we would otherwise think. In our dreams, we're looking at these very small amounts of time. Sometimes you have a much longer dream, but it's still just during your lifetime. You're not looking at whole ages or aeons of time. Now what we're coming to the realization of is that we go forward in precession of equinox, but simultaneously we're going backwards in precession, which means that as I go forward in time, 1 degree on the small rotation of precession of equinox is 1 day, approximately 1 day. Well, the reason why we have 365 days in the year is because we've forgotten that there's also a lunar calendar, which is 354 days. 354.6 days, in fact, when you include the leap year. And when you look at the solar year, it's 365.4 days. But wait, 365.4 plus 354.6 equals 720. The midpoint of that is the mean value. That's exactly 360. It's too perfect. And we've just forgotten the female calendar.
It's just coincidence.
So then now, but if we look at the larger cycle, Sri Yukteswar, it's a 24,000 year cycle. I believe that's correct. It's not 25,920 because as we get closer to our sister star Sirius, we speed up. Time speeds up because we end up just like the tissue paper in the back ledge of your car when you slam on the brakes. It increases mass as it basically is moved in velocity. So as we get closer and closer to our sister star Sirius A and potentially B as well, which would be a trinary star system, which is a brown dwarf, then we go faster. It's like the slingshot type thing that happens. And it's also when we go through the golden ages, time flies when we're having fun. So what happens is the one half of the cycle, the one we just finished, the first half of the cycle is 12,960 years, which is half of 25,920. And then the other half is 11,080. Or 11,040, 11,040. And you add the two together, and they're exactly 24,000 years, just like Sri Yukteswar says.
Yeah.
So it's what's called mass time dilation. As we get closer to Sirius A, our gravitational pull goes up, the time goes up faster.
So it does seem that everything is happening so much faster. Years are flying by, months are flying by so much faster. And I've said this before, it's like AI shows up, and within a year, it's integrated in every aspect of our lives.
Oh.
It just showed. The internet took about 5 to 10 years.
It's been a conscious leap.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't believe the stuff on my ChatGPT. If you just looked at what's on my ChatGPT, you would be mind blown. I'm already basically figuring out how to time travel.
Which we'll get into. That was one of my questions I was going to have you. But I want to ask you, though, with all the research you've done on ancient mysteries, ancient civilizations, all this stuff, I assume that you've come across a prophecy or two, a prediction or two. What have you learned in regards to where we are right now and where the ancients knew this time period would take us? Like what's happening the rest of, if you've heard anything around this year and the next rest of this decade, the next 20 years, if you've heard of anything in your travels?
Oh, yeah. I mean, first of all, you can look and know what's going to be popular and shifting and changing based on the zodiac that you're in precession.
Okay, so explain.
So we just moved into Aquarius. Right?
The Age of Aquarius.
We're in the Age of Aquarius. So you also just described people have antipathy towards organization, towards government, there's like a rebellion that's kind of happening right now. You could feel it like kind of a pulse.
Yeah, against religion, against the media, against food.
Yeah.
The way
what's happened is all the things that were the arbiters, self-appointed arbiters of right and wrong, morality and amorality, right? Legality and illegality. So all the arbiters of this that we've had as appointed societal reference points on these are all being rejected unilaterally.
Very much so.
Why? Because we are now in the Age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius is exactly about rebellion. It's all about individuality. It's also about hyper-technology and frequency and resonance. So we're just falling in line with the Aquarian age. So that already is a prediction, right? That already is the prediction. So when you look at it from that standpoint, you start realizing, okay, we're just living a script. Literally a script with a backdrop set change. The set change becomes a zodiac. So all the things that we've learned throughout time, and maybe even the nature of the time itself, is that it loops. I basically theorized in a new paper that I just wrote about something called projective planes. So instead of using a Mobius strip, which would be like a two-dimensional type object that you can spin on itself, right? And like if you have a little strip of paper when you were a kid, you could turn it into a little, like a wristband type of thing. You spin it over. Well, if you twist it 540 degrees, then you could put a car on one side of it that could end up on both sides of the paper, right?
Okay.
So it can actually do this. It can end up on both sides of the paper. So this is also something similar to a Klein bottle, which is in higher dimensions. So that would be a fourth dimensional object, right? But then there's also another object called a projective plane. And this is what I believe time actually is. It's a fourth dimensional space object that needs fifth dimensional space to be described. And what this does is it basically shows how time actually can loop on itself. So time is like a musical wave. Right there, you can assign a musical note, which I've done actually. You can go on YouTube and look up the musical wave of time, and see the 24-note modular matrix, and each of the frequencies. You can even see the representation of it in colors, right? And you can watch time like a clock.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool, and you can listen to it as well, and it's mind blowing. So it's like the backdrop of everything that's happening with the frequency of time. So you could use this along with right triangle relationships of prime factorization, and I theorize this into being able to do temporal entrainment. Time entrainment. You ever wondered why you listen to music from the 80s that kind of takes you back? Instantly?
Yeah.
Or maybe you smell something that kind of takes you back.
So
imagine an immersive experience. So under this context, in a matrix of mind, could you jump through time if you could recreate every single state of emotion that you derived from the experience that you had when you were 8 years old?
Interesting.
And match the frequency of that, because it would all be derivable down to mathematics.
So is this the time traveling you're talking about?
Yeah.
So is this a machine, or is it how?
I didn't think you need a machine.
So how do you do that within your own mind?
I think our own biology is capable of it.
Really?
Now we're in Leela.
Now you're even going beyond Neo. You're now traveling. Well, that's kind of a past life. You're going into past lives, feeling past lives, and so on. It is a form of time travel, especially past life regressions.
Yep.
That you're like, oh yeah, I'm now in the Roman Empire, and
there's a picture of me that'll freak you out.
Okay.
Do you have Google on that iPad?
I do.
So I just want you to just Google man with the moon hair.
Oh yeah, he showed this to me last time.
It's a photograph of a guy that people sent me this picture. It was like taken in 1894, I believe, by Nader. It was a famous photographer. And they sent it to me. They're like, hey, that's crazy, man. That's your face. And I'm like, what? Now, it's interesting because it did make me think, like, wait a minute. Is this how somehow, like, if I went back in time in the future and I wanted to send myself the message?
That's a good way to do it.
And I wouldn't do it with normal hair.
No, of course not.
I would do it in the same way that maybe Thoth would do it, which would be to put a moon on my head so that it could be recognizable. I might have to think a little while about that. Right? It's like the crown of the moon coming onto the symbol of Mercury.
So let's change gears for a second. You mentioned Antarctica and the pyramids. So I've seen those pictures on Google. And what have you found that they've discovered?
So I found 7 pyramids that were not the ones that you see on Google. I found 7 just in the areas that we went. There was a place called Neko Harbor, where that was the first place. And I was there with Matthias Di Stefano, who's a close friend of mine as well. And I invited him last second. It was so funny because we're in this group chat together, and he wrote, he's like, hey, I have to go to Ushuaia, Argentina on January 4th. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm going to Ushuaia, Argentina on January 4th. So I'm going on this cruise. I was co-hosting with Wim Hof, this group. And so I wrote him, I said, wait a minute, that can't be a coincidence. You're going to be in Ushuaia on January 4th, so we have to meet up. And I'm like, and then I text him later, I'm like, this has got to be a sign, Matthias. You're supposed to come with me to Antarctica. And he had invited me to go with him last year, but I couldn't go on a similar trip. And he didn't go either. So I'm like, you're supposed to come. And he'd been before, but he'd never been on the boat to get there, which you have to cross Drake's Passage, and it was this
that's not
treacherous.
That's not an easy passage to cross.
Oh my gosh!
Dangerous places to
At 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm in my little cabin. All of a sudden, everything goes flying out. The whole boat tips over sideways.
Well, I've seen that stuff on YouTube, like the ocean. Like you go down like 400 feet and you fly up 500 feet.
It was like straight out of the Deadliest Catch.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
No
like
joke.
Bering Sea.
So like in the morning, I saw the captain. After that, his face was still white. He's like, I've never had that before. That was like scary. And I'm like, please, that's not something we need to know. It's like
wait till we get back to say things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, everyone was throwing up. Everyone was throwing up on this.
You get on a plane and you hear the pilot go, "Oh, I've never seen that before." You don't want to hear that when you're in the air.
No. Everyone was. It was so bad. I'm the only one who didn't puke. Wow. Of all my friends that were on the boat, I'm like, luckily I didn't throw up, but like I wanted to at times. And man, it was a rite of passage in and of itself. But we got to this place called Neko Harbor, and we also did like polar plunging, and Matthias is the one who filmed me. I'm like, come on, dude. He wouldn't go in. He didn't jump in the water. I jumped in the water. Jay jumped in the water. Sharon jumped in the water. He took photographs of all of us, and he's like, that's my job. I'm going to basically be the recorder of all of this. Okay, thank you, Hermes. So basically, we go there and we get off the Zodiac. So we're on these little Zodiacs, right? We get off the Zodiac. And we're dressed like snowmen, right? We're like completely.
It's Antarctica.
It's Antarctica, and we get past the penguin trails, which are the penguin highways. They actually have highways. Penguins will like cross highways and everything, and they've got these roads that are all like beaten into the snow, and you can't mess with that because you're not allowed to do anything there, to touch anything. You can't even you're not even supposed to touch the snow much, right? It's like they don't want to disturb anything of the environment, right? So, but we get there, and the first thing we see is there's this place where there was this glacier that was right in front of us, and it was breaking off pieces, like huge, 1,000 tons of snow would crash in the water, and then it would cause this little mini tidal wave. It would wash up on the shore, and so the shore was not covered in ice or snow because the water had just beaten it off, right? And so that entire area, we saw the rock underneath it and the sediment was all granite. It was all rose granite. So we're like, whoa, and it felt different when we got there. And we looked, and I noticed that there was like a straight causeway going straight up to this mountain. Mm-hmm. And the straight line was so perfectly straight. It was exactly the same angle also as the Grand Gallery and up to the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. It's like 26.18 degrees. I'm like, what? That's like so perfect. And you'd never see straight lines in nature like this.
No, of course not.
It's just you don't. And so then I look up at the top of the mountain, and the mountain is exactly shaped like a perfect pyramid. Mm. And I'm like, wait, there's a causeway here. It's all rose granite. But these weren't, I believe, pyramids that were made as pyramids. It's the mountaintops were literally carved as pyramids.
So there's a mountaintop of a mountain full of quartz, of rose quartz that they chiseled
of granite.
Of granite, excuse me.
Like a whole mountain of granite that is shaped exactly like a pyramid, like a single block.
But you don't know, obviously you didn't go in, but if there's even an option to go in, you don't know.
Don't know, right? Don't know. So I'm trying to get permission to go back next March when everything is melted, right? So in March in 26, and go and do an expedition there, lead an expedition there.
Wow.
So I found 7, and these were not, okay, so I'm into geometry. So
yes.
I wanted to see, okay, so some of these look like perfect pyramids. So what would be the characteristics? Well, the chances that you're going to get a perfect block of granite, right, have equal amounts of erosion on both sides and have the exact same degree angle of ascent on both sides, right, is like pretty low.
Right.
Statistically, like how is that going to happen?
Right.
So I noticed one of those mountains had exactly the proportions of a 3-4-5 triangle, which is the exact same thing, like 2 3-4-5 triangles next to each other forming an isosceles triangle with a 53.13 degree angle. Exactly that, which is matching exactly Khafre Pyramid, the second pyramid on Giza Plateau.
Okay.
It's exactly a 3-4-5 triangle relationship, therefore it has a 53.13 degree angle. And this mountain on both sides perfectly had exactly 53.13 degree angles.
Isn't that the same perspective or ratio that's on the pyramid in the back of the dollar bill?
No, the one on the dollar bill is a 5, 12, 13.
Okay, so it's close.
But they were there too.
Yeah.
That's a 67.38 degree angle.
Okay.
And they had those type of pyramids there as well. So you'd see whole mountain ranges that looked like a bunch of pyramids, and they're covered with snow. And one of them even had carvings in it, the form of the tetractys. So it was a perfect equilateral triangle. And then within it, there was an inverted triangle, right? And then within that, there was another triangle that was inverted, the smaller version. So just like you see with the tetractys, right? Mm-hmm. The exact design carved into the mountainside.
You saw this.
I saw it. I have video. I have photographs of it. It's mind-blowing.
Wow.
Because none of it's real.
What does that mean?
When we live in a dream.
Yeah. Of course.
This is no different than the movie Inception. You know, the scene in Inception where Ariadne, right? And I can't remember the name of the character for Leo DiCaprio, but they went to a Parisian cafe.
Yes. Yeah.
And all of a sudden they made the whole city of Paris like loop back on itself.
Right.
Upside down.
Folded over itself. Yeah.
Right. So let's say you actually got to a level of consciousness that you could use your mind to carve all the mountains in the shape of pyramids to raise the frequency.
Because the way it's shaped actually connects to a frequency? Mm-hmm. It has its own frequency.
Has its own frequency.
Shapes have its own frequency.
And while we were at Nico Harbor, Matthias started channeling, Jade started channeling. It was like this spontaneous thing. So there was something very, very special about that place.
Interesting.
And it was the first pyramid that I was like, oh my gosh, we literally got off the Zodiac. I'll show it to you, the pictures. I got off the Zodiac and I was like, this is something here. It's like total energy. All of us were like going off. And I saw 7 such pyramid sites while we were there.
And has this been, I'm assuming you're not the first to document this.
First to document these.
Really? Mm-hmm. Because there's not a lot of people who go down that area?
You know, here's the thing. It's like, in this world, you get what you expect. So if you don't expect to find something, you'll never find it.
Right. Of course.
That's the nature of life. It's the same thing with miracles. You know, if you believe in miracles, you might experience a miracle. If you don't believe in miracles, I can tell you one thing for sure. You'll never experience a miracle.
It starts with the belief.
It starts with the belief. And everything in this world around you, when you realize that it's all malleable to your thought, that's what Heisenberg's uncertainty principle in action is basically showing us. What you believe informs your reality on everything. So this comes with a good and bad aspect, which is like, okay, you're in control of it all, but bad news is you're in control of it all.
Right.
You create it all. So I gave this talk, right after I got back. I did like an IG Live and put it on YouTube. And part of it was I wanted to convey that, like, I'm not anyone's guru.
Right.
I've never desired to be a guru. I've never desired to be. And so then all of a sudden on this last trip, I had people treating me like I'm kind of a guru. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, what the heck? This is not what I want. I'm on an expedition. We're like looking for stuff. You're invited on my journey to journey with me of this incredible discovery stuff. And yes, it's going to be a journey of expansion of consciousness too. And I'm learning as I go along. And I'm not perfect. The problem that you have with gurus and why they end up on crosses sometimes is because you have people that have expectations of what they will do.
Well, it's because they've given their power away to somebody else outside of themselves. And if they don't do exactly what they have someone to throw the blame on.
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, Judas was one who really loved Jesus, but he wanted him, by some of the stories and version of it, he was very much a zealot who wanted, the Roman rule to be toppled. Mm-hmm. And that Jesus is like, that's not my game, man.
It's not what I'm supposed to be doing.
It's not what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, why are you asking me to do this?
Oh, I mean, we get it all. I mean, you and I both get it as content creators. If we do something that somebody doesn't like, or if we say something that somebody doesn't like, they lose their mind over it. And it's like, well, it's just I'm just a dude. You're a guy. Like, we're all just trying to figure this out ourselves. This kind of guru aspect of things. Anytime I've even had a whiff of that with people, I always stop it in its track. I go, no. You have the power. I'm here to guide you into
Totally.
and push you like, hey, try this. Maybe this will work. Maybe this will work. Maybe this idea will resonate with you. But I am not a guru for you. I may be able to teach you something and help you find it within yourself. A good teacher helps you discover the truth within yourself.
Yeah, that's right. When the student's ready, the teacher appears. It's like, it's interesting, you know, I'm about to go to Europe and do like a speaking tour.
Nice.
Right. And so I was talking to one of my team members about this and like, what should I focus on? And her answer was, I thought it was very profound. She said, the thing that people really clue into the most is when you just tell your personal journey.
Yes.
It's not that you're trying to teach them. It's simply you're saying, this has been my experience, and maybe you'll find value in it, and you'll be able to use it in some way, shape, or form. It's my experience. I'm not saying it has to be this way for everybody. It's really not. And I believe that that's what all of these people tried to teach as well. Not a single one of them were saying, you know, it's only I'm everything, right? You got to come and believe me and pay my taxes, and you got to do my whatever.
Jesus never asked to be worshipped. Never asked.
Never.
To be
In
worshipped.
fact, he told everybody.
What I could do, you can do and more.
Exactly. So when he did say, I and my Father are one, it's not to the exclusion of you being one with your Father.
So I have to ask you this since you brought it up. I've had a little bit of, I've always had an issue with the Old Testament versus the New Testament. Always, since I was in Catholic school. Never made sense. If God is supposed to be in Yahweh, does pretty horrific, egotistical, insensitive, horrible things in the Old Testament, which contradicts Jesus' teachings 100%. Like those, they're not even in the same universe, those two, you know, and that's supposed to be his father, quote unquote, the father. How is it that those two books or those two series of books got slammed together, you know, which is basically, the Torah, essentially, and the New Testament? Why was that put together? It makes no sense. Moses' story and all those stories of the Abrahamic side of things doesn't vibe or gel with Jesus' teachings. So why, historically, were those two books jammed together in the Council of Nicaea or one of those councils by the Roman Empire? What was it?
I believe the Council of Nicaea was 325 AD, right? It was Constantine.
Yeah, of course.
And, he was losing his grip on the Roman Empire. And so it's like, if you can't beat him, join him. So it's like, okay, we're going to go ahead and adopt Christianity. We're going to get rid of the, it's like all of a sudden Starbucks now has changed. They haven't done it everywhere, but now they're switching over to like real silverware and plates and stuff, right? And like glasses and stuff like this. And I'm like, whoa.
If you're staying in, that's how you,
Right, because it's more popular these days to go to like a mom and pop place that's more kitschy and eclectic and less chainy, right? So the same thing happened with religion back then. It's like, okay, it's kind of gotten old and tired. People aren't believing so much anymore in the Greek and Roman pantheon, and all these stories of like, I saw a funny meme the other day. It was like, it's like, here was a book of all the Greek mythology, and then there was a book that was this small, like Greek mythology, and it said, this is Greek mythology because Zeus was horny, and then this is Greek mythology if he wasn't. Which is like kind of funny.
Which is genius.
It's right? I was like kind of laughing by that. Yeah. So basically, it's the same type thing. They came and said, okay, the younger generation is not wanting to like do what we say anymore, so we have to find a new way to engage them. So I've got a new marketing plan, right? We're going to use real silverware and real cups and real, and we're going to use real like not only flatware but also china and everything, right? But it's going to be durable and it's going to feel solid. It's the same type thing that happened then. So they're like, let's just try to take the books and from the 7 churches, right, in Ephesia, and let's take all the bishops and let's bring them all together, see if we can have a council on agreement. Some people believed in a Trinity, some people didn't believe in a Trinity.
Reincarnation, non-reincarnation.
Reincarnation versus resurrection, right? All of these things got amalgamated together into one council, and they said, whatever. Now what we say and declare as the edict is what it is. Right? There's really not that much more to it than that. And so when you realize, and then he is the self-appointed first pope.
Right.
So but then they said, but he's not the first pope. The first pope was really Peter. But Peter never set up or presided over any of this stuff.
No.
Peter was crucified upside down in Rome in 67 AD.
And he wasn't a big fan of Paul either.
And he wasn't a big fan of Paul. Paul was a Johnny-come-lately, right? It's like
he wasn't an apostle.
He wasn't an apostle. He's just like some lawyer. He was a lawyer who was on his way to Damascus, right, under the name of Saul. And all of a sudden, he has this miraculous story. And I'm sure everyone was like, wait a minute, this is that guy who was like a lawyer? It was like, ooh. And all of a sudden,
ambulance chaser?
The ambulance chaser. And he comes along now, and he's quite eloquent. Jeez. And he's got a missionary companion named Barnabas. Like, what are these two? It's like Batman and Robin kind of thing.
Barnabas, great name.
Exactly. So it's like, what is this? Well, I think really it's more metaphor for what we are intended to learn about ourselves, which is we have this arc that is represented by the Old Testament, which is very black and white, just as I just described.
Oh, I see where you're going with
Clarity of your enemy. The first thing you can do to try to get people to rally around you is declare who your joint enemy is. Right? It's when there's not a clear enemy in sight that society starts to fall apart. Because the thesis for being together is no longer based on fear, and it has to be able to survive on its own. But as soon as you believe that there is a threat on the outside, that's when everyone's like, okay, there's strength in numbers. We need to basically organize and get united, right? So what happened with the children of Israel, they wanted to be protected, right? So Moses wrote the 5 books of the Pentateuch, right? So he wrote those books. So Numbers, Genesis, Numbers, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, these were all written by Moses, and they're all about these black and white laws of making sure everybody stays in line because, look, you can't blame him. 40 years in the wilderness.
I can't do this again.
Dude, they can't do that again. And you know what happened? Like there were all kinds of, you read the Old Testament account of this. It's like, Moses was trying to get people united, and he's like sent 12 people to go to see if there was this, this place where Joshua, right, which was like, the land that they're going to use the trumpets to basically destroy. And they wanted to see, they thought maybe giants were in the land, and they had no idea if they could win or whatever. So they're hiding out, and they're stuck in the wilderness for 40 freaking years, lost. Because there was murmurings, there was backbiting, there was all kinds of politics that was destroying them from within. Right? So you come up with 5 books of the Bible. So what is Moses' solution? Oh, I'm going to go to Mount Sinai and I'm going to get the Decalogue, right? And I love the Mel Brooks version of this, where it's like he comes down from the mountain, it's like 15, and he drops one as 10 commandments.
History of the World Part 1.
That's right.
Great movie.
I love that. So the point being that we go through this point in our life and we get all the way up to the book of Malachi, which is the last book of the Old Testament. And then there's a break for 400 years. So Malachi was like 400 years before Christ. So what happened during that time? It was like all of a sudden prophets stopped prophesying. There's like no more prophets. And it wasn't long after Jerusalem was sacked by Nebuchadnezzar in 587 BC, right? And what happened to the Ark of the Covenant? All this great storied past, everything is like gone. And then the next thing you know, I go to Israel and they're like, oh, we're going to take you to Masada. We want to go to Masada. I was in a helicopter crash.
Of course you were.
On top of Masada. Like no joke, never fly in a helicopter with only one prop. Because that means there's only one engine. Right? Seriously. So I'm in this chopper and I was with like 4 other guys. They were all CEOs from Southern California. And we're flying over Masada and all of a sudden like the engine stops and we're like,
oh, that's fun.
Oh yeah. And fun. Of course we're like, wow, I'm going to die 1,000 feet below sea level, right? Because that's what it is when you get down to the desert around Masada because it's by the Dead Sea, right?
Sure.
So we crashed the helicopter. We landed in the desert, and I'm the only guy that had a bottle of water. And we're like 10 kilometers away.
Oh, God, in the desert.
In the desert. And one of the guys looks at me and says, wow, thank God we got some water. I'm like, who's we, Kimasabi?
What's this we?
That's right. What's this we stuff? So Masada was the last stand of Israel, right, in 70 AD. This is like, the next time you see it, there's not that much history that's left that you have any story about, right? So 70 AD is when they had their last stand at Masada. 900 people basically end up, sacrificing themselves so they wouldn't lose their virtue. And not be raped and all this stuff. And so the Romans finally got them. And then that was that in the diaspora, right? But if you look back at what happened when Christ came, what shifted and changed then. So it wasn't long after Jesus died that they were literally wiped out. Mm-hmm. So 70 AD is when they got wiped out. The apostles went all around Europe and you name it, right? Mm-hmm. They ended up in all different places. John, Isle of Patmos, and all these different people ended up in different places. But it literally caused a massive diaspora. They got wiped out by 70 AD. Jerusalem was destroyed again. Yet again.
And again, and again.
And again, and again. So when you look at this story, what was it that Jesus was coming? So Jesus, at around the time of 30 AD, comes for a 3-year ministry. Now, Dalai Lama told me that he has the records of Jesus' life in his palace in Tibet.
Yes.
And his name was Asa.
Yeah.
And he says, I read the whole thing. It's really fast. He was a monk. He was a cool monk. You know, he was from Palestine. His name was Asa. We have the whole record of it. Everything. He was High Lama.
So he went to Egypt, he went to Tibet, and he went to India.
Yes.
And then the lost years of Jesus.
And you can actually find the lost years story about Jesus' life in books. I bought one of them in a book that was heavily researched. I bought it in India when I was there visiting Dalai Lama because I was so fascinated by the story. Well, what happens in the New Testament is the gospel. The gospel means, the etymology of that word means good news. So that, and not to say that the Old Testament was bad news, but it was definitely an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It was self-serving.
It's not turn the other cheek.
No, it was totally self-serving.
Right.
Let's just call it for what it is. It was self-serving. And so, of course, it is absolutely done as a mechanism. I can't blame Moses for doing it because, hey, the children of Israel at that time needed that kind of like marshaling.
Well, yeah, because religion, I think religion did serve a purpose in human history at a certain point in human history when the entire population was absolutely ignorant, couldn't read, didn't have any information. They're running around on instinct. So there's rape and pillaging, and there's killing, and there's sex, and there's all this kind of craziness. So they needed something to organize. Like, hey, listen, if you don't behave, there's a place called hell.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that's where you're going to burn in eternity. Like, I don't want to go there. What do I have to do? Well, stop killing people, and don't steal Bob's wife. That's not cool. That they needed that. But I think as we've evolved over the last 2,000 years, that doesn't serve religion in its current state. Doesn't serve us in the way that it served us, humanity, back 2,000 years ago. Hence why more people are becoming more spiritual. More people are looking for alternate ways of philosophies to live life than going to a brick and mortar building and going through these sacraments and doing all this stuff. And if I eat meat on Friday, I'm going to hell. That stuff doesn't play anymore.
No, see, that's the thing is it's like this whole idea is like, oh, you got to do this so that you can buy your way out of going to hell.
Which happened literally by the Vatican.
Oh, 100%. This is what caused the Reformation. I mean, this is when Martin Luther broke off and said, wait a minute, we're not doing this. It's like you could buying forgiveness? What the heck?
Yeah, just give me gold and you're getting into heaven automatically. Yeah. I have the connection. I got the hookup.
Exactly. I got the hookup. I got the hookup on the other side.
Did you not see the hats? We have the hookup.
See, people knew all along that we were somehow in some play from the other side. Just as you said, our dreams are how the other side connects to us. Mm-hmm. But maybe in the larger sense, our life is how the other side also connects to us. Because we made this separation of mirrors to experience life.
Well, it sounds...
To expand our awareness.
So it sounds a lot like, when I've spoken to near-death experiencers, that life review, it seems almost dreamlike to them because you're sitting there in a Minority Report room with screens of scenes of your life, and it's all being downloaded, and you can instantly download it because you have the capability of doing that on the other side. Do you have the limitations of the Mac Classic that you have in your head right now? That didn't have the power. Mm-hmm. So you're able to see all this and then feel it, but it seems almost like, oh God, wow, that was crazy. That life I just had was insane. Let's take a look. And it's treated that way I hear that in near-death experiences. So what you're saying is not too far off by any stretch of the imagination.
No. And what is it that Jesus taught? He taught the same thing that they all taught.
All of them.
Which is you're going to only learn how to transcend this experience by falling in love with it. It's about emanating love. It's when your love exceeds and supersedes your desire to be right. It's
Yes.
It's when you're no longer in judgment. Judge not, lest you be judged. Okay, if I'm going to distill this down, Christ's message, he gave it. It's like 2 great commandments. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, might, mind, and strength. Love thy neighbor as thyself. As thyself, which also means love yourself.
Hardest
right?
thing most people can do.
Hardest thing most people can do, and that's actually what we're here to do. I believe, and then the next part of that, you can't say it without this, is to say, also in Matthew, judge not, lest you be judged with the same judgment you cast on others, right? See first the mote in your own eye. So when you start to experience life in this way, non-judgment and love, then all of a sudden, a lot of the veil starts to lift.
I would have to agree with you, man. I mean, I've gone through a journey in my own life doing this show. And over the last 7 years, pretty much, there's been this evolution of my perception of life and what's possible and what's not possible and things. And the things that this show has been able to do and being able to build this out and do all the things, it seems dreamlike. It doesn't even make sense. On paper, this show makes no sense.
You think my life does?
Yeah.
Bro.
Well, Robert, you are literally the most interesting man in the world. You're just like the Dos Equis guy, just a younger version of the Dos Equis guy.
The Dos Equis guy. Oh, yeah. Okay,
remember the
cool.
Dos Equis?
Yeah,
totally. I'm the most interesting man in the world.
My favorite scene on those advertisements, because I actually hired him once for like one of my sales conferences.
Yeah.
It was like pretty cool to have the most interesting man in the world on my sales conference. And I interviewed him on stage. It was hilarious.
It's the same one.
Yeah, well, no, it's like when someone comes up to us and says, the most interesting man in the world on skateboards. And someone walks over to him and asks about skateboards. He goes, no. And then he goes, the most interesting man in the world on careers. Find the thing you don't do well, then don't do that thing. I love it.
My favorite of all those commercials, my favorite one is like, sharks have a week dedicated to him.
That's a good one. I'm going to remember that one. Sharks have a week dedicated to him. That's right. While he's arm wrestling, Fidel Castro. Right? I know.
And a gator at the same time. Like, it was just those
They were the best.
They were
the best
absolutely.
commercials.
I wish they would bring them back. They were so good.
I know.
Robert, I got to ask you finally, man. There is so many people watching who are terrified about what's happening right now in the world. They're scared of the change. They're scared of the sledgehammer that's happening to their collective and also to themselves personally. What advice do you have for people who are really scared about the economy, the politics, food, media, like everything, the money, all of this stuff that they're so terrified about and scared? What advice do you have for them to help them process this? I only shoot easy questions here, Robert. Yeah. Only easy.
I honestly, try your best to flip your perception of what's happening. Realize that everything that's happening is happening for your highest benefit, and lean into it. Instead of asking yourself the question, why does something happen to me or to the collective? Ask, why are we experiencing this, and why did I specifically choose to experience this? Put yourself in the first person and realize that you're the producer, the director, the actor, you're everything. You're the playwright, and you can write the script. And the script, again, life is not what happens to us. It's what we believe happens to us. So when you start to flip that script and say, wait a minute, what's happening to me is I'm actually starting to realize that I'm in this dream. I'm a lucid member and participant in this. And what it's actually helping me do is find my absolute radical authenticity. Now, people say, live the love and light and fight the dark. Okay, if you want to get rid of the wars and the difficulty in your outer world, stop the wars within yourself.
Oof.
It's all a reflection of what's happening inside of you that creates your experience. So therefore, when you realize, okay, I'm on a pathway and all my relationships and all my interactions and all my experiences are all along this continuum from here, which is my first realization of separation as a child from my mother, all the way to true self-love. Can you truly love yourself if you don't know yourself? Probably not, right?
No,
I mean,
of course not.
people that would say, I'm a love and lighter, I think I said this to you before, I get requested sometimes by groups to say, okay, can you wear a hat that says like light worker? I'm like, only if you give me a shirt that says shadow worker. Because to me, it's when we start to, like Carl Jung says, it's not by focusing on what's already conscious and aware. It's about shedding light and becoming consciously aware of our dark aspects that the real progress is made.
Correct. The shadow work is where it's made.
The shadow work is where it's made. And when we finally start integrating and realizing, okay, if over here, my relationships, my experiences and everything are like almost perfected in some perfected state, because this is where there's absolute alignment between how I love myself and how the world around me loves me. Mm-hmm. Because that's what's going to happen. As I truly love myself unconditionally, then the world around me starts to love me unconditionally. So the split is the people that are still stuck into, and it's not because they're stuck, they chose this path as well. They want to go deeper into the duality. They want to fight more against the dark. They want to right the injustices of the world, rather than looking at the world and saying, I am that I am, and I can fall in love with it all as it is because it's beautiful. And once we do that, then you start to manifest more and more and more. Your relationships, the people that come into your life, your friendships no longer are going to be as conditional. If you have conditional friendships, that's a reflection of how you see yourself conditionally. Mm. So as you move more and more to this, so when you finally get to this stage out here, this is when you're fully a full player in the Leela. And you're living an angelic style life. And you're getting new DNA, you're getting all of the stuff that's coming along with this. You're not aging anymore. You actually start aging backwards. Mm. You don't feel stress anymore. You get up in the morning, you're like, I love this guy. Have you seen this guy? I think he's Mahood or whatever. He's on Instagram, and he's like always doing these posts. There's like, he's kind of like a Sadhguru style, but he's not Sadhguru. He's a joker, right? He's a complete comedian. And he's like, when your boss comes to tell you to do your work, fuck it. Have you seen this? It is so funny. It's like, your work is not going to go away. If they're expecting more from you than you should be giving, just don't do it. It's hilarious. If your day is beyond repair, go home. It's so funny. And then realize life is here for you to experience. I'm like dying laughing watching this. But to a certain extent, I'm not even being facetious on this.
Sure.
What I'm actually saying is we don't escape Earth ever, but we can transform it into heaven on Earth if we can fall in love with it just as it is.
Well, I mean, would you agree that every difficult time in human history, there's always people who it seems not to bother? Like in the Great Depression, some of the greatest companies in the world were created. So while everybody else was like, oh my God, the world's coming to an end, someone's like, no, I think I'm going to start a business now. In the toughest time in human history, up to economically of human history at that point. And it works. It happens all the time. So it's not just like everybody. During the pandemic, a lot of people had really rough times about it. A lot of people sailed right through it.
Yeah, even during recessions, right? Yeah. I've done all kinds of research on this when I was in the business world. It's like during a recession or a time of tumultuous change, you have 2/3 of companies go down, right? They don't do and perform as well as they did before, but 1/3 break out.
Right.
Why do they break out? Because they were able to adapt and they were able to change the paradigm of what it was that they were doing. How are they serving their customer? And by the same token, if you think you can, whatever your environment is, or you think you can't, you will be right. So don't get stuck into the belief system that your outer world is determined by anyone other than yourself. That's the best advice I can give, is that this place can be an absolute heaven.
It can.
It's totally up to us. And that's what we're being taught. Heaven and hell is right here. We don't have to die for it. It's literally right here. Mm-hmm. And I believe fundamentally that these people all figured out, even Jesus, when he was nailed to the cross, was often described as being in a blissful state.
Because he wasn't connected to the body.
No, because suffering is only suffering when you don't know the reason behind the suffering. When you realize that Judgment is a source of suffering, but suffering is a source of enlightenment. I don't even like the word enlightenment. I actually prefer the word enlightening because it doesn't ever end. It doesn't end for Source Creator either. It's constantly getting more and more wise and expanding its awareness to higher and higher levels. And it just uses us as dimensionally limited avatars to experience itself and play out this game of life.
And also, like, just because they mastered this level doesn't mean that there's other levels above it.
There's endless number of levels.
Right.
That's the thing, until you finally just absorb back into Source Creator. It's just a process that we are all part of the same one. We're just all divisions of the number one.
Sparks, if you will.
You know, I gave a talk at Vatican last year on, I was asked to give a talk on the mathematical proof for God.
Okay.
So I went there and gave this talk, and it got spread around by the Vatican all around the world. Like millions of people saw it. And I started off with the speech because I was asked, okay, so how would I prove mathematically, the existence of God? And the first thing I came to was the very first lines of the Bible that talks about in the beginning there was the void, right? So out of the void came what became everything. So I'm like, what could be the mathematics of this? And that's when I realized that mathematically there is a representation for this. And it's 0 to the power of 0 equals 1. Nothing to the power of nothing equals everything. Vacuum to the power of vacuum equals everything, because the one gets divided infinitely. So that's the universe, the one song. We are just divisions of this number one. And we recognize that all the things that we thought we were evil for, all the stuff that we did bad, the homework that I ditched when I was in high school and junior high, and the fact that I, had a girlfriend and a relationship that I didn't treat the best and everything, all these things don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. These are all part of the chosen path for you to realize your authenticity. Authentic love is the highest frequency. And you can only know your true authenticity if you know your darkness.
If you look past the ego for a minute and you just understand that in 100 years, there'll be strangers in your house. In 100 years, you'll be lucky if anyone remembers your name. In 500 years, you'll be really lucky if anyone remembers who you were and what you did. In 1,000 years, I mean, seriously, there's very few human beings who have made such an impact on this planet that their stories have been continuously told again and again and again and again throughout thousands of years. But that list is not long in the amount of people here. So when you look at that perspective and not just look at like, I got to pay my taxes, I got to pay the rent this month, which is fine. You have to do those things. But you're here to experience this. This is a game. This is an experience. So don't take this so seriously. In 500 years, no one's going to remember any of this. That big fight that you're in right now with your significant other or with your neighbor or with your best friend, and it's destroying your life, in 10 years, how is that going to make it, really? In 15 years, in 50 years, what does that mean? And only time and experience, kind of like you and I are of similar vintage, we can look back at our lives and the things that we thought was the end of the world in our lives, especially in high school. Everything was so dramatic. Everything was the world is coming to an end. You look back and you're like, oh, God, it was ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
But it's the Alan Watts quote, mankind only suffers because he takes too seriously what the gods made for fun.
What's such a great quote. A great quote. And on that, sir, where can people find out more about you and the amazing work you're doing in this world?
Well, I think the first place I would direct people to is my show Codex on Gaia, which is getting better and better and better. I give you a bit of a preview today, and it's super epic. I'm very, very proud of it.
Well, you're adding a lot of extra juice to that. So
I added a lot of extra juice to it for sure. Yes. And
it's not your standard.
Also grateful. I know that my producer at Gaia is Jason Liggett, and before that it was Sid Goldberg. I know Jason is particular. He's like super thrilled that I was able to like put so much effort and investment into the season, which made it really, really top notch. But that's Codex 2, which just came out, and I'm sure there'll be a Codex 3 and 4 and everything. This is just my evolving journey of my own personal hero's journey. and falling in love with this world experience. And I think it's nothing but entirely authentic. That's the thing. And if I don't know something, and I'm evolving and learning through this process too, like every day, the thing I'm learning more and more of, the more I learn, the less I actually know. And that's the first place I would direct people. And the next place would be to my website, robertedwardgrant.com. If you'd like to go on an adventure, like an Indiana Jones style adventure that will literally change your life, it's not for the faint of heart. This is not a vacation. It is not a a luxury experience where you're just going to be sitting, sipping, pina coladas or something like this. This is like a hardcore journey into higher consciousness, and it's an initiatic path. So just realize that, and we do it all over the world, but they are absolutely life-changing experiences for people, and you will discover and see what it's like to be on the journey of a lifetime. But it's not for everyone. Definitely not for everyone. And then, my books, Philomath, Polymath, and my latest book, Philosopher, are all available on Amazon. And I have 4 books also that I published that are my artwork, which is the Mirror of Consciousness series. You can find that on my website also. So there's lots of ways to find me, and hundreds of videos on YouTube and everything. Last year I was on more than 170 podcasts as a guest.
Stop it. Were you on that many?
I was on that
many.
Yeah. But they were all on entirely different things.
Yeah.
Because they
Because you're the most interesting man in the world.
Well, I don't know about that. But find the thing you don't do well. Then don't do that.
Then don't do it.
That's right. But no, it's been a fantastic
I think Sharks have
thing.
a week dedicated to you, sir.
Really? Sharks have a week dedicated to me. I finally arrived.
You have arrived, sir. You arrived. It's always a pleasure talking to you, sir. I could talk to you for a few hours more for sure. Thank you for everything you're doing to help awaken this planet, my friend. And you are welcome back anytime, my friend. So thank you again.
Such a pleasure. And thank you for what you're doing. Like, literally, I see your podcast. I was in Washington, D.C. at the airport. And this is like my life now. It's definitely changed. When you go on that many podcasts, you're getting lots and lots of, gross rating points, I guess, as they would call it in the business. And I was sitting at this bar. I had my Apple headphones on, like I'm wanting some alone time.
Sure.
I'm like literally wanting some alone time. And the waitress from the bar comes up to me, and my arms are on the bar like this, and she literally puts her head under my arm.
No, she didn't.
She did. And she's like, "Excuse me." I'm like, "Yes." And she's like, "Are you the one I saw in Next Level Soul?" And I'm like, "Robert Edward Grant." And I go, "Yes, I am." She's like, "We thought so." And then she looks back at all the other waitresses, and they're all jumping up and down. They're like, "We loved you on that podcast on Next Level Soul."
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And then the same day, I was like getting on the airplane, like literally 10 minutes later, I'm getting on the airplane, the lady checking in, to take your QR code type thing. And she's like, "I got you, Mr. Grant." And it was just so funny. She's like, I love you on Next Level Soul." So I'm like, I have to tell Alex about this.
I find it so mind-blowing, man. I got to be honest with you with that kind of stuff. It's like, we've done, close to a couple million views between all of our interviews.
Yeah,
at
easily.
least.
Yeah, because one of them
is 1.2, just
yeah,
one.
that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and between all of the ones you've done, you've been on the show I think 4 times at this point, 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
So it does get seen. That's not numbers. Those are human beings watching this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And people come. I live in a bubble. I live in this little bubble I've created for myself. It's me, my family.
You literally do live in a bubble.
I literally live in a bubble. We're not in LA. We're in Austin. It's a very different vibe here than it is in LA or New York or any other major city. And I don't really get it. Like people come. Like I feel like I'm Tom Hanks on the island, and I'm with Wilson. And occasionally someone comes to shore, which are guests that come in, and they tell me stories like this, and I'm like, really? Is that happening out there? Like, yeah. Like you have no idea. I'm like, really? Like it's still mind-boggling to me. I know we have numbers. I know a lot of people watch what we do, but hearing stories like that still blows my mind.
Well, I love that when I do podcasts with you, because I can give all these like pop culture references and you actually know all of them because we're the same age.
Correct. Exactly. You're not
Totally.
talking to a 20-year-old.
That's right.
And you're just like, in Back to the Future, what is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Marley McFly, like, I was born in 2005. So like, I'm like, The Matrix. what? Like,
I know. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Robert, always a pleasure, brother.
Such
Thanks
a
again for
pleasure.
being on the show, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.